your rookie quarterback has been named the captain. Teammates have raved over his leadership ability and his mentality. And so, what does that say about the quarterback you've drafted? And were those qualities that you expected this early on in his career?
Yes, everything that we'd researched and learned about him, we expected him to be a leader. Just the way he goes about his business. You never know how the votes are going to turn out. We got a lot of really good players who have leadership qualities that would have been fit for being a captain. It just so worked out that he's one of them, and now he's just got to go lead this team to victory.
Is that something that, as a coach, head coach, you appreciate, is that you've got leaders at every position group? I mean, you have a core of guys that you know that you can count on as leaders up and down your roster?
That is important, because not only are you in team meetings and unit meetings, but you're also in those daily position meetings. They're together as much as anybody. And so to have that leadership really at every position on this team, it helps you sleep better at night as a coach, that you got those voices that are always around the young guys, the glue guys on your roster. So that's important.
Along those lines, I mean, 3 of the 7 guys that you have as captains weren't here last year. I mean, does that say anything about where you guys are at as a team at all?
I just think that we added the right types of people for sure. And then there were some guys that were right up there against the vote who have been here, and it would have been great leaders, but again, we only have 7 of them. You can't make the whole team leaders, but it does show the progress we've made. It's a different locker room, and we're really excited about that.
How hard is that? I mean, to be a new free agent coming into a place, even if it is a place that's looking to change a lot and change, how hard is that to come in and kind of be viewed as, a centerpiece of everything you're trying to do?
Shows the confidence they have in themselves to not just sit back and say nothing. And because they've worked to earn that leadership role and the respect of their teammates. They did it the right way. It was not, they weren't fooling anybody. They're true to who they are, and they have the confidence, and they put in the work to earn it. Wayne, I saw you.
Have you ever had a rookie be a captain before on any teams you coached?
Not to my knowledge. I can't remember too far back, to be honest with you, but not that I can remember off the top of my head.
How'd you arrive?
Someone who has coached offense your whole life, can you give us a little glimpse as to what it's been like working with what some people have described as a generational talent?
I don't go that far yet. He's still got a lot to learn and haven't played in a game yet. But it's certainly exciting when you see a guy whose approach is as good as you've ever been around. That's what you want in a coach. You want guys that love ball, love talking about ball, but also have that right balance to where they're fun to be around. Their teammates enjoy being around them, the coaches being around them, but they certainly have that edge to them in the right moments to kick everybody in the butt and get them going. And so that's a fun type of person to be around, and we got a lot of those guys in the locker room right now.
Coach, you've been around a lot of players over your football life. Does Joe remind you of anybody in terms of just his ability to get it? Do you think back and say, man, I remember a guy that was like that along my football path?
He's, I've only really been around him for 4 months, so I'm a little hesitant to make that comparison. Yeah. Brian Callahan's been around some great ones as well. And he throws out a couple traits every now and then of guys I haven't been around that he has.
Coach, how did you arrive at 7 for captains? How'd you come to that number?
It's just the way it fell. The vote was so close at a couple spots that was just, we felt like there were 7 guys that had clearly earned it.
Okay.
Zach, I know.
Zach, Zach, what can a good or bad performance do for a quarterback in week 1? And when you were looking at making Joe the starter, I mean, did you take that into consideration as to how that might, affect his confidence moving forward for the rest of the year?
No, I did not. It's who gives us the best chance to win and lead this team. And that's all we focus on is being ready for week 1 and which players give us the best opportunity at all positions. And that's the only way we made those decisions.
Zach, if he does well, what do you think that kind of effect that could have the rest of the year?
it's a long. I mean, you play 16 games, and if you get too caught up in one game, then that's usually the first mistake you can make.
Zach, what jumps out at you when you break down the Chargers defense? I know it's hard to analyze things without a preseason, but pretty much the strength of their defense is those two edge rushers and Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram.
Yeah, very talented. They got a couple veteran corners in there, and those two edge guys create a lot of problems, and they put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, and they can really be the catalyst for their defense. And then they got talent, at the linebacker position as well, and they got some safeties that are talented. So we certainly got our work cut out for us, but our guys are going to be ready, and we're excited for the challenge.
Is there
What about
anything
the
you
other?
Go ahead.
Butch.
No, go ahead.
Butch. What about, since you're talking about Chargers, on the other side of the football, Tyrod Taylor. Can you give us your opinion of Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback and a thumbnail sketch of the Chargers, what they present offensively?
I've always been a fan of Tyrod, and he's been around for a long time. He's always done a really good job leading his team. I've been around coaches that have coached him before. They always speak highly of him. He takes care of the football. His teammates always seem to have confidence in him. And so he's certainly a tough opponent week one. Offensively, I won't get too much into their scheme because there have been some differences there. But I got a lot of respect for Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator. And I know that they've got a lot of talent there. You look at Keenan Allen, you look at Mike Pouncey, Austin Eckler. They got a good tight end group. So they've got a lot of talent there to work with. They've added some pieces to the offensive line. So our defense has got to be bulked up and ready to go.
Is there anything?
Zach, speaking of
Is there anything?
Go ahead, Brandon. I'll get back to you.
Sorry. Zach, speaking of offense, just how excited are you to see your offense with Burrow and all the weapons you have year two and just open up that playbook finally? We don't get to see as much as we probably want to at practice, but how excited are you to see that on the field again?
You see more than I want you to see. Okay, I'll start with that. But it's a good group. It's guys that are all in this thing together in a very connected group. I can say that about the whole team, but you're asking specifically about the offense. And we certainly have some talent at the skill positions. And so they've put in a lot of work. We are excited to get to game day. I still see 3 days of work that we got to have ahead of us before we're ready for that point. But I know these guys are chomping at the bit to get out there.
One more question about the captains. Every coach probably does it a little differently. What is your way that you vote for team captains?
The players voted. That's all that matters to us is the players in the locker room a lot more than we are. They see these guys behind the scenes, and so we trust their opinion on it.
And then do they rank 1, 2, 3, 4? How many names do they write down?
Yeah, we had offensive players vote for 2 guys on offense and 1 special teams player. And then on defense, they voted for 2 defensive players and a special teamer.
Is there anything?
Zach, when you were a quarterback, what was the game you were probably most nervous for?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I guess when you were playing back in the day, what was the game you were maybe the most nervous for going into, or the one that you probably thought about the most leading up to that game?
Yeah, 2. My sophomore year of high school, I was the backup quarterback, and I talked a big game, and I acted like I wanted our starter to get benched so I could go in, but deep down I was terrified. He went down 1 time on the sidelines and hit the yard marker, and I was just praying, get up, Jake, get up. I cannot go in this game. So that was one I was most terrified. We were playing Norman North. We won 9-0, by the way. And then the next one would probably be my first spring game at Nebraska. I know that's hard to believe, but it was in front of 85,000 people. You dealt with more media than I've ever dealt with in my life. And it felt like a real game. I'd only been there for 2 months. And, certainly that was probably the one I felt the most nervous for of all the games.
Why is that? Why the spring game and not maybe the high school game is understandable?
Because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for either one of them, to be honest with you. I didn't know how to work when I was in high school at that age. And so you go in there and of course you think you can throw the ball really well and that your talent, you got a big ego about yourself because you don't know any better. But deep down, you're not ready. And I felt the same way. Probably that's the reason why at Nebraska, I'd been there 2 months. It was a big, thick playbook. I tried to learn it as best I could in my accounting and my econ classes. But I wouldn't say that I was really confident going out to that game. And so when you haven't necessarily put in the work the right way at that moment, it's not a fun feeling to walk out on the field. And those are lessons I've learned. And you try your best to communicate them to the players and help them understand that. And some do, and some don't.
Coach Joe has mentioned more than once, and he mentioned it again today. He's very appreciative of how you and your coaches offensively have included him in your game plan preparations and gotten his input. You seem to do that with all your quarterbacks, so that's standard operating procedure, isn't it?
Well, the guys that have earned it, we've been fortunate to have guys who go about things the right way and earn that opportunity, and so it's just, I'm not out there on the field playing. So it doesn't matter what I know and what I think. If I'm keeping those secrets to myself on why we're doing something, or then it doesn't serve us the way that you might convince yourself in your head. So it's important that quarterback is an extension of the coaching staff. That's just the way it is. It's the most difficult position in all of sports. And so he needs to know what we're thinking, why we're thinking it. And if it's not something that he feels comfortable with or believes in, then we need to know that, because I don't want to call a play in crunch time that he doesn't have a lot of confidence in. And so that's just an important part of that really that play caller and quarterback relationship.
How much more comfortable do you feel as a head coach going into the opener this year than maybe compared to when you were on that flight to Seattle last year? And maybe why do you feel more comfortable in who you are as a head coach now, having learned through a year of it?
I think you can summarize it just with the walkthrough we just had. I think back, I've watched some of our walkthroughs from last September and last August. It's night and day difference. And so and those are things that you don't really think about day to day until you go back and you actually watch and think, we're light years ahead of where we were. And, the players just have a better understanding of the schemes, and that's the bottom line. We got a better understanding of them, standing in them. I know I've said that several times, but that's really what it comes down to. It has nothing to do with me. Just everyone in this building's got a better comfort level with one another and what the expectations are. And we're able to play a lot more faster and a lot more confident.
Coach, what can the difference be in a walkthrough? What's the difference? How do you see a difference in a walkthrough?
Hard. Just the standards, the way that our guys on both sides of the ball and on special teams just approach it, the way the scout team works, just the looks you get. It's hard to put into words, but there's a clear difference there. So, Jeff, I know you've been trying to get one in here.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Box. Go ahead. I think Box is up. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Coach, when you look at the offensive firepower, do you kind of temper yourself even mentally to think, man, I've got something to unleash here? I mean, you think about AJ and Joe and Gio and on and on and on. I mean, this offense has a lot of firepower, and it's almost like they're ready to go, but you just got to control that.
It is an exciting group, but we have done nothing yet to earn any credibility other than what we've seen in practice and walkthroughs and meeting rooms. We haven't done it on the field yet in a game. And so until we prove ourselves out there, it's all just talk, and we're trying our best to avoid that.
Thanks.
Coach, is there anything you took from that opener in Seattle? Well, most of the openers are like the kind of back and forth, adjusting, readjusting. Is there anything you took from that experience and that maybe it can go? It certainly won't be as loud. But is there anything you can take away from just the kind of the chess match that develops in an opener?
Yes. I can think of 4 things specifically off the top of my head that, I've tried to relay to our offense in different ways. They don't need to know it was all from the Seattle game, but things that I've just seen in my notes. We're going back to watch the game. Critical situational errors that we made, there was a lot of them. And they probably cost us the game. And so just to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes, whether it come from me or a different coordinator or coach or a player that's going to be on the field. We've done our best to educate everybody to make sure we don't make those same mistakes from a year ago.
Coach, there's kind of an expectation that there might be some statements made around the league during the anthem with some teams. Whatever your team decides to do, maybe you've already talked about it, how much do you just want your guys to be unified in what they decide to do on Sunday if they decide to make a statement?
100%, you nailed it. That we are supportive of each other. Everyone has a different background. Everyone has a different reasoning for things. We've talked in depth as a team, and it was very emotional meetings, and we're not even complete with those yet. So we'll keep that to ourselves. But again, we want to be unified in our approach and supportive of everybody in this organization.
Coach, when you get ready for Sunday, a lot of guys have, certain songs or music they like to kind of get them ready. Do you have anything that you listen to on the way to the yard?
I wouldn't say there's one thing. It's depending on what time the game is, it can be different things. It's mostly just like to sweat and take some notes. That's kind of the biggest thing that helps free my mind up a little bit, as opposed to listening to something.
You mentioned situational football mistakes that were made in the opener against and you're all, I mean, that's a big deal. Your practice is situational football, and you compete. You have red zone, you have backed up, you have all different kinds of competitions, situational football. Was that disappointing to you that, in that opener, it just didn't translate the way you had hoped or wanted?
You just got to be calm in the moment, gather the information you can, and make the best decision. And there's certainly a lot of things that I can learn from in my first year.
Can you share with us just one of the 4 things?
Sure. The first, we challenged to play on the first drive of the season, and it was loud, and we just didn't do a good enough job getting to a one-word play quickly. And so instead of taking the delay game, we challenged a questionable catch that ended up being rolled into completion. And we should have just been on the ball running a play faster. It got under 15 seconds. It was loud, and we just weren't on the same page.
Joe has made the most. Will be making the most unusual start, or start under the most unusual circumstances in NFL history for a rookie. What have you seen about him? What is it about him that leads you to have confidence that things will go pretty much the way you want them to on Sunday?
Well, he's had a first game in a lot of different places, and so he's been in this situation more times than most people. He's done it in high school. He's done it once at Ohio State. He's done it once at LSU. Now he does it in the NFL. And so he's used to being put in this situation where he's got to come in and earn that leadership role in a short amount of time, and then go out there and be able to execute on the field and have his team have faith in him. And so this is just another example of that in his story.
Coach, has the league sent out any information about –
Hang on, Lap. Sorry, I'll unmute you in a second, but let's keep it to just a couple more. We're coming up on practice time here. Go ahead, Lap.
Now he's muted. Now he doesn't know what's happening.
Oh, whoops. We'll come back to Lap. Or there you go.
Am I unmuted? Okay.
Good, yeah.
Has there been any communication from the league about point of emphasis, since you haven't met with the officials and the officials have been nowhere to be found, and all of a sudden, boom, they're going to be in your opener? Has there been any call, anything that's doing from a point of emphasis standpoint that you guys have been clued in on?
There are a lot of memos to sift through nightly, and I try to do my best to let other people sift through them and give me the information that I need. Nothing specifically on what you're hitting at, but again, there will be more information as the week comes.
You had said leading up to that stadium scrimmage you were going to have officials for that, and then they weren't there. What happened with that?
We just didn't end up having officials, and again, there's just – I think every day is going to be different sometimes, and we just got to not overreact when something unexpected happens. And who knows what it'll look like on Sunday in terms of all the stuff you guys are mentioning. But, again, we just got to keep our composure and react accordingly.
Zac, you kind of talked about keeping your composure. I know you always do, but you've worked so hard to get to this point in a weird offseason and tons of Zoom calls and everything leading up to this, the number one pick and everything. And now that it's here, are you excited? Do you allow yourself to kind of get excited for Sunday and just a chance to unveil everything you've worked for this entire offseason to show everyone kind of all that work on Sunday?
Your mind does wander there. It is really hard for me to look past this practice at 2:15. It really is. It's already check marked, the reps we got to get for certain players. And so that moment will come on Sunday morning. But right now, it's not just coach speak. It's the truth. It's all we think about is the next hour we have in front of us and what we need to accomplish to make sure we're ready.
All right, Coach. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Zac.
That's it today, guys. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Pete.